to wake up, asking about my book, and smell the coffee, right? So this particular little episode of Wake Up with Doc Scott is going to be about the book, The Absent Man, which launched today. So it's available on Kindle or paperback and is going to be up on Audible here in a few days. They take a little bit longer with their process. So I wanted just to make this particular one not as much about me talking like the last time I did this, where I read a chapter and then talked for an hour about whatever, you know what I mean? It was all good, of course, but nonetheless, it was just me doing a lot of talking. But I'm going to read chapter 2. And I thought that would be, I mean, they're all good, of course. Um, yeah. All right, so chapter 2, The Face of Fatherlessness. A father to the fatherless, a defender of widows, is God in his holy dwelling. Psalm 68:5 from the NIV. Make no mistake, while the circumstances and stories surrounding fatherlessness vary widely, there has been a dark and deliberate plan underlying it all. A plan not only to dismantle the family unit, an institution created and ordained by God, but to inflict one of the most profound and lasting wounds in the human soul, the father wound. This wound, inflamed with the enemy's poison and the lies he convinces are true, creates something in us, a malignancy, a stronghold, an infrastructure that the soul that only love, in the soul that only love, I can write it, but I can't read it, that only love can dismantle. Love is the antidote to the poison of the enemy. The heart's capacity is great. It holds layers of pain, grief, sorrow, distortions in how we think, ones that beguile how our hearts perceive and receive love. We build walls without even realizing it, and when trauma is involved, those walls can become nearly impenetrable. But the enemy is after something far greater than just disrupting our homes. He is after our design. God made us in his image. That image is indestructible by divine design, but it can be marred. It can be fractured, wounded, and distorted through abandonment, rejection, and trauma. The enemy knows that if he can damage our design, he can derail our destiny. It's like an unborn chick in an egg. If you want to destroy its future, you don't wait till it hatches. You scramble it before it ever breaks free. The disfigurement will render anything that hatches unrecognizable and unable to fulfill its intended purpose. The enemy's goal is to utterly obliterate the image of God at our core. So what comes forth no longer reflects the one who formed us. The father wound is not a fringe issue. It's embedded in the bedrock of our culture. A hellish strategy perpetuates it, one that manipulates generational sin, broken behavior patterns, and destructive family dynamics that repeat again and again. Jesus came to break the pattern. He came to destroy the works of the enemy, to shatter the lies, and to liberate us through truth, the truth about who we are, the truth about the one who made us, the truth about our identity. This war isn't just about broken families. It's about identity. Yes, damaged identity causes dysfunction. You can't walk in your purpose when you don't know who you are. To the extent that the enemy prevents you and me from fulfilling our destinies, he is victorious. Shame, guilt, and trauma, abandonment, rejection, these are his weapons. They weave together a fortress in us, creating strongholds that resist love, truth, and healing. But this fortress can come down. The war isn't about our behavior. It's about our design. Your function flows from your identity. When you know who you are and understand what you've been called to do, you operate from the blueprint of heaven. That that blueprint, of course, you just have to know that whenever I do anything like this, if I'm reading anything, whether it's to a class full of students or here, I always include the bloopers. I do not edit them out. That's what makes this fun. That blueprint creates time. According to Psalm 139, God wrote all the days of our lives in his book before a single day existed. But it wasn't, but, but it didn't start there. Before the world's foundations, Christ conceived you and me. In that place, God formed our destiny. He knew who we would be long before we took our first breath. Fatherlessness is the enemy's most significant stronghold on the earth today. My prayer is that this book and the Father's work within and through you will begin to dismantle this stronghold. Receiving revelation and healing will reconnect you to the Father's love, the love for which you were created. When fathers hurt, I could feel my heartbeat in my head pounding like a warm drum as I broke every speed limit trying to make it to the Target parking lot. It was 3:57 p.m. I had peeled out of school like a wild banshee with his hair on fire. Joke. Frantically scanning for the farthest, most inconspicuous spot to park. I had a 4 p.m. appointment on Zoom with a deliverance minister. I was not about to miss it. I had even rehearsed my excuse if a teacher asked why I had left in such a rush. My crock pot is still on, I'd say. I could barely catch my breath. I didn't even know it was possible to break 100 miles per hour. Kidding. Wink, wink. Of course, on some of those roads, but that day I found out. I pulled out my, gotta finish that sentence. I pulled out my phone, got it situated, hit the Zoom button, and boom, I was on a screen at 4 p.m. sharp. The man on the other side of the call was someone I'd interviewed for a documentary project on angels, still in the works. He was in Canada working a 3-month intensive with a survivor of satanic ritual abuse. He focused his ministry on deliverance, walking people through the deepest levels of trauma and demonic torment, restoring what the enemy tried to steal. During our original interview, before our target parking lot meeting, the atmosphere had shifted, so I met with him, on Zoom to talk about what I was interviewing him. And so at the end of the interview is when all this took place. I wasn't planning on meeting him for ministry, right? He spoke about how God used him and how angels were involved in the healing ministry. I could feel it. The Holy Spirit thickened the surrounding air. And I thought, oh no, Lord, not now. This is supposed to be an interview. But I knew I needed help. I asked for an appointment. He had smiled, a knowing smile, like this wasn't the first time. This wasn't his first time being asked. I chuckled, thanked him, and braced myself. I've been involved in both giving and receiving within my ministry work. I've led teams, taught at conferences, and watched Jesus show up in the hidden places of human pain. I knew the drill, but this was going to be different. I grew up in the Vineyard movement. Back then, inner healing felt like it could sneak up on you during a worship set, or even a children's story. My pastor once looked over his glasses and said, Scott, the Holy Spirit's going to visit you. 10 minutes later, I was curled up in a fetal position, weeping. Healing felt accessible then. Grace and glory were thick in the room. This meeting with the person I just interviewed for my documentary was reminiscent of my Vineyard days. Healing was tangible then, and it was palpable now in this moment. That's why, for our first prayer ministry Zoom meeting, I parked far from the Target store, the furthest space in the lot. the red dot shrinking some in my view. I knew it would get loud. All week I had been emotionally unraveling. Grief, rage, shame. I've learned that when something significant is about to be touched by God, the emotions often flare. It's preparation. The ground is being softened. The walls begin to shake. As the session started, I don't remember his exact words. What I remember is what happened. My chest warmed. Anything happened. Then I started reading.